Year 2 of the Marcus Freeman era begins with one goal.
We're at Notre Dame, one of the best schools in the country, so the expectation is to win a national championship.
Notre Dame kicks off 2023 with lofty expectations and the roster to make it happen. With a new offensive coordinator at the controls and the most experienced quarterback in the country, the offense is set to take flight.
Sam Hartman makes it look easy. Is he that good?
He's pretty special.
Plus, Notre Dame returns the depth to be dominant on defense. And we go one-on-one with the head coach.
As you head into the season, where's your confidence level?
It's extremely high, and so I'm excited to get to game one and really get the season going.
It's all tonight on the Notre Dame Football Preseason Special.
A new season of Notre Dame football is right around the corner. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this special presentation of WSBT Sports. I'm Pete Byrne.
And I'm Bennett Wise. Over the next hour, we'll get you ready for the 2023 Notre Dame football season with player interviews, features, and an in-depth look at the Fighting Irish at every position.
We'll also break down the 2023 schedule. Plus, I sit down one-on-one with head coach Marcus Freeman to find out what's new as he enters his second season in charge. But we begin tonight with the big picture. After a 9-4 season, which included a top 5 win and a thrilling bowl victory, Notre Dame enters the year with just one goal in mind.
We're at Notre Dame, one of the best schools in the country, so the expectation is to win a national championship. Obviously, we got a lot of big games this year, so just going in, commanding games on the road, getting those wins, and then just defending home turf. You know, we had a few slip-ups last year, so obviously we just need to understand that when people come in here, this is their Super Bowl, so we need to defend our home field.
A national championship certainly doesn't happen by accident. And Bennett, it doesn't happen without some toughness either.
No, it does not. And toughness has certainly been on display this fall camp, much more than we've gotten accustomed to seeing in the past years. It starts up at the top. Marcus Freeman has been very vocal during practices the past few weeks, raising the bar with his words and some physical, intense practices to go along with it. As the training camp portion of preseason came to an end, Freeman told us he likes how his players have risen to meet the challenge.
It's a physical bunch. It is a competitive, physical, passionate bunch that we are still pushing to reach its full potential. You have to be physical to have success in this game. And you're talking about men going at 20-something miles an hour, full speed, and with pads on, but you got to be courageous to play this game. And so what you try to do is see who's going to run into the fire and who's kind of tiptoeing in there. And I think that's got to be promoted from the head coach. But at the same time, I'm really want to evaluate, hey, are you going to play with the effort and attitude that we demand?
No doubt it's been a little bit more intense this year.
It absolutely has been really fun to watch during practice.
Yeah, we will see soon enough if it pays off. Meanwhile, we're just getting started tonight. Coming up a little bit later, we'll sit down with head coach Marcus Freeman. And when we come back, Notre Dame has a new offensive coordinator. We visit with Jared Parker, who shares his philosophy for directing the Irish offense when our 2023 preseason special continues.
There's no such thing as free time, even when you step away from it a little bit, which is the world of coaching. You know, there's things that wake you up at night, and there's things that wake you up in the morning that you're constantly thinking about because you can never do enough.
Welcome back. Pete Byrne and Bennett Wise with you. Notre Dame will certainly look different on offense this year. Of course, a new veteran quarterback, Sam Hartman, who we're going to hear from in a little bit. He's certainly a big reason for that, but there is also a new play caller, Bennett.
Yeah, Tommy Rees left Notre Dame for Alabama in January, prompting a highly publicized search for a new offensive coordinator, which led to the Irish promoting Jared Parker, who will continue to coach the tight ends while also adding the responsibility for overseeing the entire operation on offense.
That he will. I had a chance to chat with Parker during this training camp about his offensive philosophy and the growing relationship with his new quarterback.
I know you guys collaborate a lot as a staff offensively, but how have things changed for you over the last few months in terms of the amount of time you're investing into what the overall offense looks like?
Well, a lot. I mean, it's a good question. That's the biggest difference, right? I mean, you quickly learn as you've seen other great ones do it or be around it, and then when you're thrown in it, like the job really is to coordinate. Like, what does that really mean? I think everybody in our business thinks plays, and they matter. But you're really just trying to make sure you help guide and give direction to a great staff. And I'm not just saying that to try to make sure it hits right for you all. It's the truth. Like, we have a great staff, guide and direct the staff, and then let them do their jobs and work. And there's a lot more time put into that than there is some of the other stuff that you're used to doing. And then there's no such thing as free time, even when you step away from it a little bit, which is the world of coaching. You know, there's things that wake you up at night, and there's things that wake you up in the morning that you're constantly thinking about because you can never do enough. So it's a lot. In a very positive way, it's a lot.
Now that you know who your quarterback is, you know who your primary running back is, you're starting to put the pieces in place. What do you think this offense looks like?
Well, it's we know what we want it to look like. Like, as far as how we want to be perceived when somebody turns on the film, you want to see a team that takes care of the football, which I said very early in this thing, that plays really hard and is physical, and then we play with great details, meaning the ability to make our plays work. And so that's who it's going to define us. Like, we'll always result to those first and live our creed through them. We want to be able to run the football, be a physical team, and then give the ability for our players to do what they do.
Well, your personnel, I mean, starts with your quarterback. He's obviously a good one. In terms of just on the field, like, what is he really good at?
Well, there's a lot to be said about experience and being in it. He's been in the fire a lot. So I think there's more than anything for all of us the ability to handle failure as much as success. So when you're around a guy that's been as many fires as he has, he's been able to learn that balance. So I think with that comes an ultimate respect. Now he's built trust throughout the summer. I think that's the difference for him. He's built respect by being here. Trust is earned. He's earned that right. And we've also got a great locker room around him that it's embraced it.
How much do the two of you collaborate?
A lot. We have to. I think more important for me, I want to know what he likes and what he feels so we can communicate and go. It doesn't matter if we really like one or I really like a play or a scheme and those things. If he doesn't or he doesn't feel it, shame on us.
Parker and Hartman will lean on the big guys up front to help make that offense go as Notre Dame enters the season with, I'd say, arguably the most dominant offensive tackle tandem in the country.
For sure. Joe Alt and Blake Fisher, they're only juniors, but already have a combined 36 starts between them and return to anchor an offensive line that paved the way for nearly 2,500 rushing yards last season and 25 touchdowns. During fall camp, the pair spoke to us about working together in practice to make each other better and bringing a dominant mindset every time they step on the field.
I know I'm better than the man across from me. Like, I don't ever have any doubts or any emotions that, you know, kind of make me hesitant from the person I'm going against, because that's just, you know, how I feel personally. I know I'm dominant.
Me and Blake are really close, so I think for us it's just like the little bit of competition, you know, just in like the basic drills, you know, just kind of, it gets a little, you know, you don't really, like, we're not trying to compete, but it just does it, you know, you always want to be the guy who, like, oh, that set looked good. And, you know, just between me and him, it's just been, it's always fun to just compete and just get you don't really know you're getting better, but you're like, wow, I feel so much better.
You feel pretty good about those bookend tackles there, especially when they're breaking in some new guys at the guard position. But they're solid on the outside for sure. And you can bet they're going to give plenty of space to Sam Hartman operate and also create gaps for the running backs. Yeah, the running back room is one of the deeper position groups that the Irish have, with Audric Estime in charge and expected to be the lead back. A season ago, Estime led the team in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns. He spearheads a promising group that added graduate transfer Devin Ford from Penn State. Jadarian Price returns from an Achilles injury, in addition to sophomore Jabron Payne and freshman Jeremiah Love, both drawing praise from the coaching staff. But all of them feel that they can step up at any time.
Everybody can do everything, and like I said, you can't take a day off, and so it's good when someone's out and you put somebody else in and you don't miss a beat.
I've always been a leader growing up, so it's just something I just step in and came pretty fluently, and just we have a lot of young guys that have a lot of learning to do, but I'm also a guy that needs to do a lot of learning, but I just try to come in every day with a positive mindset, lead by example, and try to be a vocal leader too.
And Pete Estime is a guy that just gets better and better as the game goes on. Last season, a quarter of his rushes were in the second half that went for at least 10 yards, a higher clip than any Power 5 back in the country.
Yeah, he was certainly clutch. His strength has so much to do with that. I think we got to get Baby Bettis. We got to get that name trending this year. All right, we need to take another timeout, but when we come back, the Fighting Irish are about to embark on their second season with Marcus Freeman at the controls. I sit down one-on-one with the Notre Dame head coach when the WSBT-22 preseason football special continues.
And it's all about making sure for those 12 guaranteed opportunities that we have, that we can perform at the highest level. Like, nothing else matters.
Welcome back to the Notre Dame Football Preseason Special. Marcus Freeman is about to begin his second season as the head coach at Notre Dame.
Yes, and he's quick to admit that he is a different coach than he was in year one. I recently sat down one-on-one with Freeman. His growth on the job, one of the many topics we discussed in our preseason conversation. I can see that you're much more comfortable right now than you were at this point a year ago, Coach. What didn't you know a year ago that you know now?
You have to go through it, right? And you can have somebody hand you a book, you can see it from outside looking in, but the experience, it's going through the actual experience of being a head coach that there's no replica for it. And so that's the thing about it. As you go into year two, I don't have every answer, but I know what being a head coach at Notre Dame is like.
Where do you feel more prepared than a year ago? Whether it's practice, games, probably all of the above.
I think being able to have a feel for your team and what they need. Last year I kind of did everything based off of a blueprint that I had put together, and this year you have a feel for your team. You can adapt and adjust in terms of practice expectations, in terms of, you know, exactly what you're doing during the practice, what you're doing when you're not practicing. You can really get a feel for what your team needs.
We've noticed, at least I've noticed, a difference in your demeanor on the practice field, different from last year. I know that was deliberate. Why did you feel like you needed to make a little bit of a change in terms of just the way you deliver your message and maybe sometimes the sense of urgency you convey to your team?
Well, I think it's, you know, again, everything you say and everything you do is intentional. And, you know, I know you guys aren't at every practice, but some of the practices you guys are at, there's something that I want to get across to the players. And it's a focus I want for them to have that day. And, you know, I think that's what you guys have been able to see at being at some of the practices. But again, it's what does the team need that day? And again, I think I have 1 year of experience to have a better feel for, hey, this is what I think our team and our group needs this day.
Do you always walk into practice thinking you know what that is, or does it sometimes come to you as they're stretching or throughout the session?
It can come to me at all different times, and that can be in a meeting, that can be at night, it can be in stretch lines. And so that's why I'm very intentional about going through the lines and saying hello to the players or just seeing how they're doing. And you can get a feel from certain guys, I think, what the team needs.
We're midway through camp right now. Do you feel like their demeanor, their performance has been what you wanted so far?
Yeah, they've done an excellent job. And I told them, man, the way they've worked and really just rising to every expectation we've had as a coach and coaching staff has been tremendous. And they're working their tails off, and I'm really pleased with the work of this group.
You have a new offensive coordinator this year. How does your offensive philosophy mesh with what Jared wants to do?
Well, I think it's very aligned, you know, and I have a vision of being multiple on offense. I want to make sure we put our players in the best positions to have success. I want to be able to run the ball because I believe from my background as a defensive coordinator that if an offense has the ability to run the ball, now you open up major areas in the pass game. That's my mentality is when I think about what I want our Notre Dame offense to be. I want it to be the ability to run the ball to create openings in the pass game.
Your background is with defense, but as the head coach, you're responsible for everything. Do you find as time goes on, you're more and more involved, more and more comfortable being involved in the offensive side of things?
Yeah, I think I'm getting more and more comfortable with all phases of football, right? I spend a lot of time with the special teams, you know, and time with the offense and the defense. And so I'm going to spend the majority of my time with the defense because that's where my background is. But making sure that all three phases are aligned with our vision of what it takes to have success is most important.
Sam Hartman makes it look easy. I know it's not easy, but I mean, is he that good?
He's pretty special. But more than anything, he's experienced. And so when things don't go well, you won't be able to tell by his demeanor because he's been through it all. You know, you're talking about a 6-year of college football and a mature guy that just turned 24 years old. He's been through the highs and the lows. And so the thing I love about Sam is he's consistent in his approach to the game.
Does he give you guys an opportunity to make the playoffs that you probably don't have without him?
Yeah, I think he brings a ability to our team to be successful. what the result of that is I don't like trying to cap our team and saying, hey, we're going to win a national championship, we're going to make the playoffs. Like, you know what? I think he raises the potential of our team. And our job as coaches is to get our team to reach its full potential. But having Sam Hartman as our quarterback, to me, increases that potential.
As you look over the next 3 months ahead, how difficult is the schedule in front of you guys?
I know week 1 or week 0 this year is Navy, and that's going to be a challenge. And I mean, you're lying if you haven't taken a peek at the entire season, and that's Notre Dame, right? We're going to play the best of the best teams across the country, and it's always going to be a challenging schedule, but our focus has to be to make sure we start the season off the right way and we're ready to roll in Dublin, Ireland.
Of course, we're going to take a closer look at some of the marquee games on that schedule coming up. Plus, I have a little bit more with Marcus Freeman later on in the program.
But coming up next, big things are expected from the Notre Dame front seven this fall. We'll take a closer look at the Irish defense when our preseason special continues.
Welcome back to the Notre Dame Football Preseason Special. Like a quarterback, every football team needs to go through its progressions, the necessary steps to reach the best outcome possible. And in the second year of the Marcus Freeman era, it's not only the head coach figuring out ways to bring efficiency both on and off the field.
Yeah, second-year defensive coordinator Al Golden led the Irish defense last year to the 22nd fewest yards allowed per game in the nation last year and ranking in the top 40 in fewest touchdowns allowed. Golden says his approach has always been adapt to the players, not the system he's installing. And this year, like many of the players, Golden believes that everything has slowed down a little more, and the Irish have been able to enhance their plans for fall camp and the beginning of the season.
Everything has slowed down. I'm hearing that from the players and from the staff. Our focus is always inward. Like, we're always worried about ourselves. But for me, I had the ability and the opportunity to have foresight and to be a little bit more outward thinking, to be able to look at the schedule and say, for these 3 teams, we're going to need this. Obviously, for Navy, we're going to need that. I think from that standpoint, the offseason has been very, very productive, and we're practicing accordingly.
And really the strength of the Irish defense is right there in the middle. The starting linebackers, Maris Leofold, Jack Kaiser, and J.D. Bertrand, all returning for a 5th year.
Yeah, and as you just saw, they were the team's 3 leading tacklers last season, and Marcus Freeman says it would be easy to just roll them out there every single series, but the Irish also need to build depth behind that talented trio. Sophomores Jalen Sneed and Nolan Ziegler, along with the freshmen, have seen more first-team reps in this fall camp to get up to speed, while the veterans have focused on teaching as well as playing.
As a freshman, I barely got any reps in fall camp. I would be lucky if I got 2-3 reps at all during the course of practice. And yet these guys are getting reps in every single period. And I think that goes to the fact that, Maris, JD, and I can take a mental rep and get the whole rep out of there. And for them, it's very important to actually feel it, see the speed, the physicality of the play, and also go through the checklist pre-snap.
I challenge myself to be more vocal to them, communicate more with them, whether it's giving them tips or just helping them with the playbook or anything like that on and off the field.
Having so many younger guys in our system, it's been an opportunity to teach the sophomores who ultimately are going to turn around and teach the freshmen. And so whether it's answering every single question they have or looking at the details in their technique, it's been a really cool opportunity just to kind of almost test my knowledge by getting all these kind of questions.
Let's go to the big boys up front now. There's no question one of the leaders along the defensive line is senior Riley Mills, who the Athletic recently ranked 10th on its yearly freak athlete list. At 6'5" and over 300 pounds, Mills can move, running more than 20 miles per hour on a GPS last year. But his goal this year is to play as he's physically smaller while also having a bigger voice on the team.
He's transformed his body. He's 300 plus pounds, moves like a cat, intelligent, and I think you've seen the best Riley Mills, and credit him.
3 years experience and the ability to play outside or on the interior of the defensive line. Riley Mills can do it all.
If you have one guy that does one job versus a guy that does like 4 jobs, like who would you rather pick? So for me, that's something I always pride myself on. Like whatever position is, I'm going to go out there and try to apply the same basics.
That's a message passed down from last year's seniors, guys like Isaiah Foskey and the Adamalola twins, who Mills said showed them the roadmap, and now it's on him and the upperclassmen along the D-line to pass it on.
The biggest thing is just leading by example. I've been trying to be more vocal. That's kind of my goal this offseason. I've always been kind of someone who just really focus on myself a little bit. But this year, I just trying to get in my comfort zone. So when we go out there and do drills, like my whole goal is just I want to show the standard and make sure I can coach up the young guys.
He really made a point this offseason to commit wholeheartedly, and it's showing. And he's got he's nowhere near being where he wants to be, and that's a daily commitment we have. But really proud of the steps he's taken and the leadership role he's also taken.
Mills' commitment and 2 biggest assets, his size and athleticism. And fall camp has been the time to tap in.
I'm 6'6" on a good day, so it's kind of like I got to make sure I'm playing low. It's tougher for some D-linemen a little bit shorter, so it's easier for them to just, stay low all the time. For me, that's something I got to work on. And, it's great because Coach Wash, I get texted like, 12:30 at night or something, be like, hey, you're way too high. What are you doing? Like, that's just one of those things that I'm policing. And it's really just going to be, the goal through this fall camp.
Coming up next, we jump back to the offensive side of the ball. New quarterback Sam Hartman makes the Irish a contender this year, and we will hear from him when the WSBT-22 Notre Dame preseason special continues.
It's different. It's special here. There's a lot of eyes, which is pretty obvious at this point. You never really know until you're out of it what it means to be in this position, and so as much as I can to try and soak it in.
Welcome back. Notre Dame enters the season with a new quarterback who also happens to be the most experienced in the country.
Sam Hartman transferred to Notre Dame after breaking records at Wake Forest the past 5 years, throwing for the most touchdowns in ACC history, ranking 2nd in career passing yards, and owning just about every other single-season passing record.
Yeah, but that's not the only thing that's caught his teammates' eyes since he's arrived here in South Bend. Hartman carries such big weight around the program already, he was voted a team captain, almost unheard of for a new transfer. Recently, I spoke to Hartman about being a team leader and also what he's learned from those who've gone before him about being the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. Marcus told us a couple days ago that it was hard for you to kind of be the leader last spring, but since you've emerged as the number one, he's seen a difference in you. How has that kind of happened?
I think there's always challenges coming into a locker room, right? You don't really know anything about it, what the culture's like, what the guys are like. And it's really more just interpersonal relationships. I think leadership is quite simple. In the end of the day, if you come up and you work hard, you show up on time, you do your job, right? That's probably the number one thing. And then out on the kind of smaller details is just relationships with the guys. I think that's just time. Like I don't know. In the months that I was here in the spring that I was going to be able to accomplish the relationships I wanted, but now at this point I feel like I know, like on the offensive side of the ball, the guys really well and can kind of lead and command, and it's exciting, it's challenging, but what I want.
I know you've had a chance to talk to a couple of guys that have played quarterback at this school over the past couple of months. What have you learned from those guys? What have they told you about what's unique about playing quarterback here?
To go through the whole conversation, there's a million things. I think in summary, there's it's different, it's special here. There's a lot of eyes, which is pretty obvious at this point. And I think you never really know until you're out of it what it means to be in this position. And so as much as I can to try and soak it in. It's a high pressure, pivotal season for myself and more important than myself, this team and this university. So just trying to take it in day by day. And, we have a one play, one life mentality, and that's what we're going to do.
Sam Hartman will also have plenty of guys to throw the football to. The receiver position hasn't particularly been one of great depth over the past 5 or so years, but they expect that to change in a big way this year.
And the Irish have a healthy blend of old and new on the outside. Junior Jaden Thomas is the leader of the Whiteouts. He's in position for a breakout season after a solid sophomore year in which he caught 3 touchdowns and finished 3rd on the team in receptions. Alongside Thomas, Deion Colsey and former running back Chris Tyree give the Irish a trio that caught nearly 60 passes a year ago. Add the emerging Deion Colsey, and there's also a pair of highly regarded freshmen, Jaden Greathouse and Rico Flores, who Marcus Freeman said will factor into the game plan in the near future. Overall, it's a position once considered a liability that could actually be a strength here in 2023.
This year, I'm really excited. All the boys are excited. We young guys, talented. I think this is probably one of the most talented wide receiver groups that I've ever been a part of and Notre Dame has ever had. Just look at the freshmen, Greathouse, Flores, and Braylon. All got tremendous speed, route running, and then you got, Dion, me, Tobias, who've been here, who've played, and then we got Chris and Matt Salerno, just veterans. So I think we have a great group of guys who want to compete, we like to have fun, and we just love the ball.
All right, when we come back, we're going to venture back over to the defensive side of the ball and check out the Fighting Irish secondary. We'll also take a look at the special teams and the new face who will be counted on to put points on the board in the kicking game. We'll be right back after this.
We're going to be best when our great players play great. So that's the challenge. How do we get our great players to play great? What can this group handle that they can play fast? Because our great players will play great when they play fast.
Welcome back to the program. Defensive backs need a short memory. That's because they're frequently left out on an island, and even one mistake could cost a touchdown. But Notre Dame thinks it has two of the best manning the corners this year.
Yes, they do. One of them is a captain. Cam Hart is back for a third season as a starter. He led the team in passes broken up last year and also was among the team leaders in tackles.
And then on the other side, you've got sophomore Ben Morrison. Morrison, one of the breakout stars of the college football season a year ago. As a freshman, he was among the nation's leaders in interceptions on his way to earning All-American honors. He enters the season in the running for 3 major awards, the Bednarik, Thorpe, and Nagurski Awards.
Moving up, position defined by depth and experience after adding graduate transfers Thomas Harper from Oklahoma State and Antonio Carter from Rhode Island. They joined Xavier Watts, DJ Brown, and Ramon Henderson. That's a total of 5 seniors in the rotation. Safeties coach Chris O'Leary says with so much experience, the standard is high and the level of competition, well, that won't settle down all season.
We've had Coach O'Leary for the last 2 years, so I think we're all real comfortable with him, and he's not really focused on teaching us the little details. It's even bigger, recognizing formations, things that in the past he was mainly focused on getting us the calls and things like that. But now it's just small details to help us make plays.
When a freshman wide receiver catches a ball on you, you don't really have to say much because it gets them going. So it's made it more competitive. It's fun to see the young DBs and the young receivers go at it as well, so it's been really good for the competitive fire.
Definitely a good amount of competition, but I would also say, we definitely help each other, when we're on the field, we're definitely, competing to, get the most deflection, get the most picks, but at the end of the day, we're a team, we all trying to help each other to get better.
And one more name you're going to want to know as we head into the season opener, Spencer Schrader. A graduate of South Florida, Schrader transferred to Notre Dame in the spring and will handle the place kicking and kickoff duties. He has a super powerful leg. 50 touchbacks last fall at USF. And Bennett, we've been watching him in practice. I mean, he definitely has the ability to connect from 50 yards out, maybe even more. Very strong.
Absolutely. He was kicking into the wind yesterday, and it was still getting there, 50 yards.
Nice weapon to have for sure. All right, we need to take another timeout, but when we come back, we continue our conversation with head coach Marcus Freeman. The coach shares some insight into his personal life and shows off his sense of humor. That's when our preseason football special continues.
Who has the baddest uniforms? Notre Dame has the baddest uniforms! What you gonna do, Coach Free? Show me the green jersey!
The Jerry Maguire parody was certainly one of the entertaining highlights of fall camp. It also gives us another peek at Marcus Freeman's underrated sense of humor. In part 2 of my exclusive conversation with the Notre Dame football head coach, we get some insight into Marcus Freeman, the man, the father, and yes, the actor. What did you do this summer to recharge?
We took a little bit of time. We went to Hawaii as a family and got away. The best thing about that was it's 6 hours behind Eastern time, so probably about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone kind of shut down because everybody was asleep here on Eastern time. But you know what? You get breaks. There might not be days. We obviously took a vacation, but when you get hours to spend with your family, maybe away from the office, you have to take advantage of that.
Hawaii is more remote than Indiana, obviously. I know you can't walk around town. You can't walk around New York City without being noticed. Can you walk around Hawaii a little bit without being noticed?
Yeah, at times. But you know what? I've embraced that. I kind of like it. You know, I love this community. It's just a great reminder when somebody does recognize you, the honor and privilege you have to be the leader of this football program. And so I really enjoy it and remind myself often that at any moment this could be taken away, so be grateful for it.
I was going to say, you seem pretty comfortable in the spotlight, and I was wondering, is it something is that just you, or is it something that you tolerate, or is it something that you're adapting to?
I think it's the ability to have humility. I mean, what's the worst thing? Somebody can come up to you and say, good luck, or you did a bad job, or go Irish. It's okay, you know, and you're a normal person like anybody else. And I probably didn't think that before I became a head coach. I probably thought before I became a head coach that you become a different person. You can't go to Walgreens or CVS or go to church or anything like that. Yeah, you can. You can be a part of the community, and just understand that you're no different than anybody else. Maybe the perception of you is different because of what your occupation is, but I'm no different than you or anybody else around here.
You can also go to a high school football game or wrestling match and sit in the seats instead of the sideline. I'm curious, how do you balance being coach with being dad? Because I know it's not easy.
Yeah, you know, you think about some of those athletic events and you know, there's going to be times where you don't want to be recognized, and it's not because of you, it's because you don't want to put any added pressure on your kids. And so those are things I think about long and hard. How can I make sure that I'm not a distraction for any of my children? You know, I want them to go out and be able to compete and have the same playing field as anybody else. And so I'm a father, right? And I probably get just as nervous or even more nervous watching my kids compete. But man, it's a unique opportunity that I wouldn't miss. If I couldn't, I wouldn't miss for the world.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you've been to hundreds of high school games in your life working. I'm in the same boat, but being there watching as a fan is special, isn't it?
Yeah, and you want to be that.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I want to be a fan. I want to be a parent. I don't want to be the head coach when I'm at my kids' events. And so sometimes I find ways to try to blend in with the crowd, you know, and it was funny, my son was wrestling at the state wrestling tournament, and when he was getting ready to wrestle, I went and had a hat on and sat down right in the middle of just everybody in the crowd, and nobody recognized me, and I wanted to make sure that I could just be a fan, and it was really cool.
What you gonna do, Coach Free? Show me the green jersey!
I got to ask you about Show Me the Green Jerseys.
Yeah.
Whose idea? Katie's?
For sure, Katie's. Yeah. Katie came up with it. She finds ways to get me out of my comfort zone, right? And last year with the Hangover parody, and this year with the Show Me the Green Jersey. When she first showed it to me, I said, oh, there's no way that I'm going to be doing this. And, you know, when you realize this is for Notre Dame and it's going to help us in recruiting, help us in our fan base, I'm all for it.
You've got buddies that you played with that are coaches, players. Who have you heard from that had something to say about your acting jobs?
Plenty of them, and most of them say, hey, just stick to coaching football. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. Trust me, acting is nowhere in my future. But again, as I tell them, hey, you watched it, so we got the job done.
They certainly did. Well, coming up, we will be joined by Tyler James of Inside ND Sports to break down the 2023 schedule. Our Notre Dame football preseason special returns right after this.
For us, there's nothing like playing in Notre Dame Stadium. With our fans, with our student body, being here in South Bend, Indiana, we truly believe that we have an advantage playing at home.
WSBT-22 is proud to partner with Inside ND Sports all season long to bring you the most complete, comprehensive coverage of Notre Dame football.
Along with publisher Eric Hansen, Tyler James will partner with us throughout the year as we bring you Notre Dame content across several platforms. And we're happy to introduce Tyler, who joins us tonight. Tyler, thank you for being here. Obviously, we're excited about this football season that's right around the corner. And as we take a look at Notre Dame's schedule, there are 3 big games that pop out, 3 teams ranked in the top 10.
Yeah, Ohio State, USC, and Clemson. I think you can put those 3 games up against anyone else's 3 best games on their schedules. And the fact that Notre Dame gets 2 of them to come here is certainly helpful, but it's going to be a lot of primetime performances and some big moments for a Notre Dame team that has some guys coming back, but needs some guys to step up in those big moments as well.
Obviously, the Ohio State game last season at the Horseshoe, first game of the season, feels a lot different than this year's game now that it's mid-season. Marcus Freeman won't be coaching his first game as head coach. I feel like maybe that's, I don't want to say winnable, right, because it's going to be a hard game, but maybe less difficult than a year ago?
Yeah, I think what makes the game most winnable is that they don't have a starting quarterback that's coming back. And I think it would be helpful maybe in Notre Dame's perspective if it was like last year where Ohio State would come into Notre Dame to start the season with an inexperienced quarterback. By then, they should have their quarterback situation figured out. But without having a known guy back at quarterback, I think that leaves a little bit of a question mark for what Ohio State's going to look like this season. And hopefully, from Notre Dame's perspective, they can sort of take advantage of that and be able to have the upper hand in terms of the quarterback
If Notre Dame were somehow able to win that game against Ohio State, USC lurks right around the corner with their Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. This could be maybe the biggest Irish SC game since that 05 Classic, huh?
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be lots of hype, especially if Notre Dame does beat Ohio State in that game and USC comes to town. You would imagine that potentially 2 undefeated teams in that situation, but that's a very talented USC team. It'll be interesting to see what that USC team could do defensively to improve from last year. That was sort of the knock on them last year. Obviously, Utah took advantage of that. Notre Dame wasn't able to, but you'd like to think with Sam Hartman at quarterback that Notre Dame would have a better chance of doing that this season.
One thing I like, Notre Dame does get those 2 games at home. Obviously, the challenges with Clemson, aside from the roster, will be that Notre Dame has to go on the road facing a team that's looking for some payback. We know those 3 games are going to be the tough. Outside of those 3 top 10 opponents, what game on the schedule worries you the most?
Duke, which I think is a little bit strange because you don't think of Duke in high-level football, but Mike Elko, a former Notre Dame defensive coordinator, the head coach there, has got that program going in the right direction. You're coming off the Ohio State game. I just think you got to go on the road. I think there's some elements there that make you a little bit nervous about going into Duke against a team that maybe you underestimate. I would think that Notre Dame wouldn't, but there could be some trouble there.
And one thing we do know that the schedule is loaded enough that if the Irish were to go 12-0, they are in the playoff. Do you think there's enough meat in this schedule for an 11-1 team to make the playoff?
I think so, as long as those top 3 teams end up being top 3 teams, as long as the bottom doesn't drop out of Clemson or Ohio State. I think as long as you beat 2 of those teams, I think there's a pretty good chance that Notre Dame could still get in the playoff if they only lose 1 game.
All right, well, it's certainly going to be fun to watch, and it all gets started in Dublin, Ireland against Navy. We'll look forward to chatting with you from Dublin because you're going to be there covering that game for us. And,
absolutely.
And, of course, we'll be happy to have you joining us here again all season long on WSBT as part of our continued partnership. So thank you, Tyler.
You bet. Thanks, Pete.
All right, we got to take one more quick time out, but we will be back to take a closer look at that season opener in Ireland when we come back right after this.
Win the interval. That's what we always say. How do you win the interval? Relentless effort and attitude and disciplined execution. And you do it 1 play at a time. And so that will be the message when they're in Notre Dame Stadium or in Dublin, Ireland. Go out there and win the interval.
Welcome back. On August 26th, a new college football season begins in Dublin, Ireland, when Notre Dame opens up the year against Navy. Marcus Freeman takes a look at the stakes and shares the game plan with us. Game 1, week 0, right around the corner now. What are some of the challenges of playing overseas in Ireland?
Yeah, the logistics of it, right? And that's something that we've spent a lot of time this summer really developing a plan that has changed and tweaked. And, you know, ultimately with the time change, there will be some adjusting, but I feel like we have a great plan. We've done a lot of research and the ability just to make sure everything's smooth. Let's get them over there. Let's get them adjusted to the time change and get them ready by Saturday, which will be Saturday night, Ireland time, ready to roll.
You coached against Navy last year and you coached against them the year before as the DC. What are some of the things about the way they play and the style of which they play that can be a concern?
Yeah, they present a unique challenge, right? And you'll see things offensively and defensively that Navy does that you won't see the rest of the year. And you have to truly have a plan for that specific week. And fortunately for us, we have had the spring, the summer, and fall camp to truly develop a game plan for Navy. But the one thing that you never are able to simulate is the speed at which they play on both sides of the ball. You can practice as much as you want running a triple option, some things they do offensively and defensively, but until you get a couple plays under your belt on that game field, you'll have to adapt to the speed that they run it at. And so I think our crew, our coaches, our players have done a great job at trying to simulate it, and our guys will be ready to roll, but the ability to adjust to their speed, how fast that happens, will be a great challenge.
Big picture, as you head into the season, what is your confidence level?
It's extremely high. It's high. It's always high. I have a great, strong belief in our program, our personnel, our staff, and so I'm excited to get to game one and really get this season going.
And when you do get there and the lights come on and it's game time, what's the message you're going to leave your team with before you send them out in the field?
Win the interval. That's what we always say. How do you win the interval? Relentless effort and attitude and disciplined execution. And you do it one play at a time. And so that will be the message when they're in Notre Dame Stadium or we're in Dublin, Ireland. Go out there and win the interval.
It has been a long wait since the Gator Bowl down in Jacksonville. I am ready for some football. I don't know about you.
Absolutely, and just the overall excitement around the team this year, the hype that's building up, seems like a pretty complete team, and everybody just wants to see him go out and execute.
Certainly cannot wait to let it get started. Notre Dame kicks off the season on Saturday, August 26th in Ireland. Be sure to join us back here that night and every football Saturday for the most complete Notre Dame football coverage you'll find here in Michiana. That's our program for this evening. For Bennett Wise, I'm Pete Byrne saying thanks for joining us. NFL football is next.